I want to welcome our glorious panelists for today. This is one of my favorite sessions that we do because we get the chance to hang out with some very creative, very clever business owners, and I want to introduce you to them. So, first up from over on the right, we have Kate Lawrence from Kate Lawrence Interiors. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes up. Amazing, very good. Now, Kate is an incredible interior designer. She's also the founder of Sleep-Ins, which has beautiful bamboo bedding, FYI, if anyone's in the market. Kate is a dear friend of mine, and so I'm pumped to have you here to talk about how you've scaled your interior business. Take a seat, my friend. Next up over on the left, we have Matt Lakejev. You guys met him before. Give him a round of applause. Yay! Next up, we have Jay Wright. Jay is the founder of E-Commerce Equation. Give him a round of applause. Jay runs a coaching company called the E-Commerce Equation. He runs many e-commerce businesses, and he's going to do a keynote after today as well. Final panelist is Sophie Lea from Sophie Lea Photography. Come on up, Soph. Here we go. Amazing. Soph is an amazing lifestyle photographer, and she also coaches photographers as well. Incredible. Okay. Well, I'm so stoked to have you all here. Let's start with Kate. Can you give everyone just a quick rundown of what it is that you do, where you spend most of your time right now?
So I am an interior designer. So I run my own residential interior design business, but I like to do multiple things at once. So I've just started an e-commerce business as well, which is a bedding brand. And then I renovate and build houses as well. So
do many things.
Lots of things.
Yeah. And you're launching Inside.
Oh, yes, and I have an interior,
So Inside Scoop is going to be education for interior designers or people who want to renovate their own homes, which is amazing. Matt, give us the rundown. I know people have heard from you already, but just give us the rapid fire.
Very simply, I help small business owners and solo founders book qualified calls with clients that want to work with them on LinkedIn. That's it.
Love. Nice. So good. Jay Wright.
So I'm Jay. Kate's actually designed 2 of my places, so super lucky. I feel like I live in your work every day. It's amazing. But yeah, I run E-Commerce Equation. We're a coaching business for e-commerce brands. Largest meta partner in Australia. I have a couple of my own e-commerce businesses as well. And I'm not super creative. Business is my art. Definitely not as creative as some of the guys up here.
I think you are definitely majorly creative, but yeah, that's fine. So last but not least.
So I'm a family photographer. I take really pretty photos of babies, children, families, and I teach photographers how to do that as well through in-person workshops and also through my online academy.
Amazing. So I'd love to talk marketing first. You guys all run very successful businesses in different arenas. So let's start with you. What's a simple or surprising thing that is working for you right now on social media?
Okay, I'm going to go simple. My personal life is any parents in the room? Any parents of teens in the room? Yeah, you guys get it even more. My personal life's been wild this year, so I'm leaning on paid ads at the moment just to keep my funnel ticking over so that I don't feel as much pressure just to show up organically, which is really what has built my brand. But as life goes, we know there are times when we pull back or when we're really feeling the energy to come forward. And right now I'm just really leaning on that to keep things ticking over.
On the paid ads specifically. Are you boosting? Are you running more sophisticated stuff? What's it look like?
Boosting and paid ads toward low ticket and lead magnets.
Amazing. Love. Proud of you, my friend. Look at you go. Jay, what about you? What's something that's moving the needle for you on socials?
We're probably going the other way. We spend a lot of money on ads and we're probably going back to organic. So Noah is my full-time content creator. He just follows me around. We've got another content creator in the Sydney office. So we've probably got a media team of 4 or 5 now. And so we're probably going back to organic. I think the way that social media and the algorithms, both paid and organic, have evolved with AI mean that the number one input is the content that's going into them. So the actual quality and performance of ads is almost deprecating if you're not feeding it native 2025 social media content. So I think the days of just being able to post a graphic and get unlimited leads is slowly fading, and really being able to participate in social media in the native formats is super important. And increasingly I do think that is if you are a founder-led brand, personifying the brand, introducing storytelling. One of the concepts that Noah and I have been talking a lot about is the idea of social media really being the new reality TV. And, you know, I used to think it was all about reach, like organic was just to get reach. And I used to kind of shit on that a little bit and say, why don't you just pay $10 to reach 1,000 people instead of dancing in front of the camera like a monkey? And I've really changed my tune on that a little bit, because all reach isn't equal. Really what you're doing is you're building depth and relationship. And so, you know, on Monday we were down at Adam Sullivan's place, and you know, he's running a reality TV show. He enrolls characters, and you know, he's definitely manipulating the algorithm, but it's deeper than that, right? So I think that's really where my focus is this year, is organic content, which is wild because I'm the ad guy. Like, don't get me wrong, we still spend lots on ads, but I'm almost going full circle and catching up to where everyone was at with organic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also think what I'm finding fascinating with content now, even in the last 12 months, maybe even the last 6 months, it used to be that quantity was quite important, and like, okay, do I post every single day? What does that look like? I'm actually seeing now one post, one very high quality post, can have a much longer tail, particularly on Instagram, than it used to. So I'm kind of shifting a little bit towards quality over quantity now.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting shift from 2022, when it's just like, just smash as many things as possible.
Definitely, yeah. Like, we were doing a lot of like podcast clips and just like stuff that I would call like passive or ambient content. It's just stuff that didn't bother me. Like, I'm just doing it anyway. You record it and chop it up and post it, and it doesn't really get cut through because there's no soul, there's no personality, there's no narrative. And so, you know, it's conscious content now is really what we're focused on.
The 2022 version of content was just be non-offensive. But what we spoke about earlier in LinkedIn, Matt, you were talking about the contrarian content actually having a perspective. What are you seeing is working on specifically for you LinkedIn right now?
AI can write the best looking copy you've ever seen, and human beings are getting better. Like, we're the greatest pattern recognizers of anything. We just recognize patterns. So subconsciously we're reading things and we're like, it doesn't feel right, it's too perfect, and it doesn't have a soul really, because it's AI driven, and AI is driven off millions of vectorized numbers and all this shit, right? And so it doesn't really have a personality. Like, we as humans have emotions, we have things that mean stuff, and we have nervous systems, and AI doesn't. So I've found that what's working the best is, to back off Jay's point around like depth of content. So when you share your own opinion about something, if someone reads that and then they agree with you or disagree, you influenced an emotion that they had, and that emotion is correlated to you kind of being connected to them. It's kind of really weird. And so that connection or that emotion that they felt from seeing that, that creates influence in their brain. And so what that means is then the more of stuff that you consume, you will get influenced by their stuff. It's like rules of persuasion and how it works. But if you post things that are algorithm hacking, like, you know, this AI tool, this thing, there's no correlation to your brand when you actually post it.
Yeah.
And so that actually doesn't create any connection. And so there's views, you know, you can't correlate views to influence, like, at all, because there's like micro influencers. One of my friends was telling me about there's a school community about a 7-year-old man that just hangs from stuff. And he just tells people to hang from things, and he's making heaps of money. It's like so micro niche and weird that like it's coming, I think, with like personal brand, like media kind of companies, but you've got to say your actual opinion, because if you say something about from your opinion and your point of view, then someone is like, I kind of agree with that, or I disagree with that. You made them feel an emotion, and their subconscious then remembers that emotion when they're actually seeing your stuff again. But if you post something that's generic and doesn't have an emotion attached to it and nothing from your opinion, there's no actual connection that's created there with the brand. And so then you don't actually have influence over people. So what you're looking for as a brand is influence to get someone to feel something when they see you, essentially.
Yeah, that's so good. Kate, what about you? What's something surprising that's working for you on socials right now?
I feel like when the three guys are talking, it's this actually really rings true to what I've been thinking about lately, is being more raw and, like, I think you said it earlier, the word authentic. But I, obviously being an interior designer, I was used to just posting beautiful images, and I invested a lot of money in photography and everything looking perfect, but that doesn't necessarily translate or relate to everybody. And so growing like my own personal brand as like Kate Lawrence, it's about being more raw and it not having to be so perfect, which is very hard for me, because like I'll see the video and I'll be like, oh, that's just like, I'd love that to be done by like a professional videographer, not on my iPhone. But I think it's just being, a lot more raw, real, and as you said, having like soul and personality to what you're posting, because they're the people I relate to. They're the ones that I'm constantly watching and then not doing it myself. So I kind of am like, that's what I know I need to be doing.
I want to kind of double click on that. What do you think it is? Because I think we lean in when someone's a bit vulnerable, raw, scrappy, and whether it's their story, the way that they've shared it, or the way they've designed something. Like I posted something the other day and I was like, it was me scribbling on my phone. I was like, my designer quit. I need to tell you something. And it was me promoting this event. We sold out this event, by the way, which is crazy. But that was me being so scrappy because I was like, actually, I need this out and I just need to, my brain wants it to be beautiful and so aesthetically pleasing, but I'm just going to do the scrappy thing. That scrappy thing outperformed all of our beautiful, lovely stuff. So it's this weird thing where I think we lean in when people are being a bit more authentic and being themselves, but for some reason we block ourselves from doing it. Does anyone relate to that? Yeah. You like love it when someone's raw, but you're like, I couldn't possibly be. Do you guys have any thoughts on why we do that, or do you just not do that, and tell us how?
I think we're like protecting ourselves. It's like you want to show up and be perfect all the time. So it's like that fear of judgment. And it is like, I feel like we all can probably be honest that we've looked at someone on socials and maybe judge them when they are being so honest, but it's like, gone are those days. Like you can be like that now, and the most successful people are the ones that are happy to put themselves out there, have opinions. They might get negative feedback or they might have people not agreeing with them, but I think the fact that they're bold enough to do it, they're reaping the rewards rather than the ones that are being scared.
100%.
I think a lot of this is happening, to like zoom it out. I thought you think about this a lot, pretty weird. But we live in like a serious comparison culture. And every single time we consume a piece of information, we don't control the thoughts that are generated in our brain when that input comes in. So when they say information diet, if you eat bad food, you feel like shit. If you consume stuff, you can't control how that's going to influence you. And if you think to like the greatest artists in history, what did they do? Like the Greek philosophers, they used to just walk around in a group of people together, just fucking talking, like in a super calm nervous state. If you look at Nietzsche, who's one of the greatest, like kind of, I think, German Russian philosophers of all time, just walked around Italy for 8 hours a day. And most like larger content creators, they don't actually consume content. It's coming from pure creativity. And so when you're watching YouTube, like in educational videos all the time, it's a constant feeling of you're not good enough, constantly. So I try to like, I don't have social media in the morning. I don't consume anything. I turn off like as much as you possibly can, because that creates a little micro comparison in your brain, which then as you go to do something or put a post out, your self-trust is telling you it's kind of not good enough. And then you break your own self-trust and you're like, I'm actually not good enough to do that. And so you create these loops in your brain. And the only way I've found to do it is actually just unplug. And then as I'm assuming everyone's always unplugged, and then all of a sudden you're thinking creatively. Like it's usually when you've kind of got two nervous states. Your parasympathetic nervous state starts taking over, and you start imagining things and becoming creative. It's like every artist that goes randomly walking out, we're in too much of a sympathetic nervous state. There's a few kind of theories on it as well, and like that's causing us to feel like insecure. Urgent thoughts are coming into our brain, and that's kind of just fucking us up like a lot. But if you remove yourself from social media, then you're socially isolated from other human beings. So it's like a paradox we're kind of like living. Anyway, it's super deep, but I want to share.
I also wonder too if we think too much about ourselves in that process. Yeah. So it's like we hyper-analyze ourselves and we think everyone else is thinking about what we've posted today, and it's like actually only 3% of people actually saw what you posted today anyway. So like, so I wonder if that's also part of it. What do you think, Jay?
I can't really add much on the actual creative process of getting out of your own way to do it, but I think one thing that might be interesting is just actually what happens, because I think, we all know that the feeds used to be beautiful, pretty curated and aesthetic, and that's changed. And that's like a big shift, and it's not an accident. Like what's happened is in 2020, TikTok launched. In 2021, Meta launched Reels very closely after. And up until that point, like for the decade prior, social media would run on a social graph. So I would follow Laura would follow me, and we would opt in to see each other's content. It was permission-based content, and it ran off a social graph. And so when you were social among people you know, people were sharing their best parts of life because you wanted to increase your status to your social network. And so what worked as ads, what worked, organically for businesses, mirrored what was in social media, which was beautiful, curated, aesthetic things, right? It was the sunsets, the cocktails, the holidays. But what happened with TikTok was they actually started, and Reels, is they started to use AI, and they changed from a social graph to an interest graph. So now, Reels represents 75% of all time on Meta platforms. So let that thing sink in. Like over the last 2 to 3 years, like the consumption of social media has fundamentally changed from seeing content from people you opted in for, to content that is now served up to you algorithmically based on things an algorithm thinks you will engage with. And I like seeing your cocktails at sunset when you're on holidays, but a random I've never seen before, I don't care at all. Like there's thousands of cocktail photos online. So what is getting served up is things that are engaging, authentic, things that inspire people, things that are like really on the fringe. That stuff is not beautiful, curated, and aesthetic. It's raw and authentic. And so that is what social media is right now. So if your feed is a beautiful finished home, and I mean your stuff's amazing, but and not like the carnage of the renovation and the drama of it, like you will be limited in reach by these algorithms. You'll be penalized by the paid algorithms as well, because we are now in an AI world where there is an interest graph and not a social graph. And so I think fundamentally that's the mechanism that we're all feeling. And so if you choose to remain in the 2020 and before era of social media, you're invisible. That's the mechanisms that have actually changed to articulate the experience of like, why is raw stuff working better?
Yeah. And you're saying raw stuff, it correlates on paid ads as well, right?
1000%.
Yeah. Soph, what about you?
Just to pick up on what Matt said about what you're consuming, I remember back when I first started talking on Instagram stories, it was really new and no one was using it. And I thought, what an opportunity to be able to speak to my clients like while they're hiding from their kids on the toilet. Like what a unique opportunity. Like we've never been able to do that, like sort of penetrate into people's homes and into their private moments. And for me just to be the one to speak to them. And why that went so well was because it was so unfiltered, and it was me just picking up the phone constantly every day and just talking about whatever. But what made that easier for me is because there was no 5 things you should post on your Instagram stories, No one was telling me how to do it or how to do it well or how to optimize it. I was just working it out. And then the feedback loop was, this is fucking great. We really like hearing from you. And I was like, all right, I'll just do more of that. There was no comparison. There is much more now. And if someone asked me, how do you find showing up on socials now? I would probably use words like hard, tough. It is just as easy for me today to pick up the phone and record myself and press post. The mechanics are the same, but the input is much higher from what everybody else is doing. So I think really trying to minimize the input, that's the best thing to do. Consume less and stay in that creativity more than being influenced by what's going on around us, particularly in our similar industries.
Amazing. Okay. I just want to ask one more thing around content, because I know content is a big constraint for so many of us here. You've all built very trusted brands and through your social media, your online marketing. And I know for each of you, these have been big drivers for your business growth. Was there a tipping point where you were investing in content, you were creating, and it felt like, now this has clicked? Was there a moment like that for you where it felt like, this is actually making me money? Because at the end of the day, it's marketing, and we are doing that to, down the line, make money. It's nice to have connection and community and all of that, but it's a function of the business, it's marketing. So was there a tipping point where it started to feel like, gotcha, I think I've cracked this now?
I don't know if there was a tipping point, but I definitely remember the first call I booked from a DM chat. And I felt like I just invented fire. It was, and it was just, so I don't think it was like one point. I think it was just an evolution, really. Those first wins I don't think ever leave you.
The first sale on a sell by chat thing is just all time. Matt, what about for you?
So I used to follow like a lot of people online. They'd tell me like productivity advice. So they'd be like, wake up, meditate for 15 minutes, like do all those things, and they kind of give you like a schedule and a routine. And then I started discovering personality typing and that how fundamentally people are wired and how they're different. And so everyone's heard of Myers-Briggs and 16personalities.com. What is your Enneagram? What is your DISC profile? With AI now, you can actually put together a full cognitive profile like of yourself by essentially uploading kind of stream of consciousness into it. I won't get into that. But I think when I first understood my personality type and how I then create content, I could then build my system around my type. And so my personality type is I'm an ENTP, high DI, don't think about things and super fast, and I just want to get shit done. And so whenever I have like ideas for creating content, it's always a reaction to something that's happened and a frustration. And so I then go into like a content creation hole where I do it for like 3 hours and then I produce amazing stuff. And that's like my process. But my business partner, if he creates like content for our community, he's an INFJ and he's super high C, so he's super calculative. So he has to have system and structure, and he has to have, I'm going to post this on this day, this is what these people are going to expect. So then when he goes into his creative process, his ideas are pre-formed. So if you're, depending on Myers-Briggs, if you're a J or P, that usually dictates it. And so usually like knowing that actual type that you have then allows you to, you know, you look at someone else's system, you're like, fuck, how do they do this? It's like they're totally different to you, like, so you can't follow them. But then you work out, okay, what is your cognitive personality type and what are all your types? And so then, okay, then what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And so for me, it's like just speaking off the cuff. But if you tell me to plan something, I'm fucked. Like I just cannot do it. So like it has to be like off the cuff. And so I tried to used to do planning and instruction thing. It never works. So I think when you learn that, then you learn to fall in love with the content creation process because you just get to be yourself. Essentially, you don't have to like look for permission for anyone else. But that was kind of the tipping point when I worked that out, probably like June 23. And I was like, fuck, I can just do this. I don't have to follow these people. But yeah.
Yeah. So I want to go to questions in the room in just a moment, but I just wanted to talk about, today we've been talking a lot about stepping into this creative CEO space, which is where you lead, where you get to have this art and ambition. If you could share with people here today, like the biggest mindset shifts that got you from one level to the next, what were the big pieces for you that helped you to level up?
I think mine's pretty simple. I think when I started, it was a business that originally was a hobby that became, I then went and studied, and then it became my job. And so because it was a creative business, I just had in my head that like you can't charge for creativity because, you know, I'm from a family where everyone's in corporate and I'm like, oh, it's creative, it's just fun. Like I can't charge people for this. So I started my business and I like really burnt myself out because I was just taking on job, and I was not like charging what I should. And like, I don't know what all your jobs are in the room, but like as an interior designer, often you're involved with the person for a couple of years. And so if you're not charging properly, I can see how it easily burns you out. But as soon as I got to a point where I actually valued what I did and I realized that, you know, I think I'm actually good and I'm adding value to people and I'm, you know, this is a job that is very helpful for someone on a very, like building is a very stressful process. As soon as I had that mind shift, I stepped into kind of like a different phase in my business. And that's when I started to, you know, really grow and actually earn, you know, a good income.
Yeah, I love that. Matt, what about you?
I think when you just go from the mind shift to we're either extrinsically or intrinsically motivated. So extrinsically only lasts a certain amount of time. So if that's like money, it's only a certain amount of time. It's like a thing. It dies. Like when you get a new car, you're like, I don't fucking care after a month. But you want to find intrinsic motivator. And so for me, my intrinsic motivator was like getting feedback from me helping people. That was literally what it is. And so I like my dopamine hit is like in Slack, I've got a testimonials channel. And that's the thing I open every day. I'm like, fuck yeah, who's getting a win? And so like creating that loop and then just literally being like, I'm just going to give away everything. Like I'm going to hold nothing back because I think most of us have the thing of like, I don't want to give away all the secrets. Everyone will like do these things, but it actually just turns you into a magnet. Like really, when you just give everything. But I think when you take that mindset of like, how can I really try and help someone get a result here? Like, how do I actually do this? And then you just feel really good afterwards. And then it just becomes like a dopamine feedback of like, I can totally understand why someone would be a midwife because your job is so fucking hard, but like it would feel so good. Like at the same time, so they get paid barely anything and have a really hard job, but like the payoff is so nice. So I think just if you can engineering, intrinsically helping people every day, constantly over and over, it becomes a good feedback loop and it's easier then to do stuff.
So good.
Yeah, that's my answer too. It is actually pretty similar. I think like probably the biggest mindset shift for me on my growth journey was when a coach of mine pulled me aside and sort of said, recognized that I had plateaued. And I think I didn't realize it at the time, but the growth and success that I was experiencing was beyond anything reasonable or sensible or anything I'd ever seen in my life from my reference points and my background. And so what I realized was that I'd reached an upper limit of my identity and what I thought my self-worth was and what I thought I could achieve. And so probably the biggest mindset shift for me was realizing that there's a skill and an art to making more money, but at the exact same time, you need to work on the ability to be able to receive and accept that level of success and happiness into your life. And a big part of that was like what Matt described, which is actually trying to connect that to positive outcomes for others. So, like just realizing that, I help a lot of people with their business, and if I get 1/20th of what I create, that's totally fine, and just sort of like making it not so much about me, but also the externality. But then at the same time, just, being accepting of that, being able to stand in front of the room and accept the applause is very hard sometimes, particularly if you don't come from much. And so for me, that was probably the biggest mindset shift, similar to Matt, was just that awareness, and a really good book on that, The Big Leap, which helped identify that upper limit threshold and helped me kind of blast through it.
Yeah, that book is called The Big Leap, if you wanted to write that down. So what about you? Mindset shift that helped you level up?
Yeah, it was when I stopped treating my business like a group project, asking everyone what they thought. What do you reckon? Do you reckon people would pay that? Do you think they... And when I first started my business, my goal that I thought would just be the best was to cover the grocery money. And even that, telling my mum that I was going to charge people $300 for a photo shoot, she's like, they're never going to fucking pay that. And so I was like, well,
Thanks,
well, maybe then I need two people and split that in half to pay for the grocery money. Like that's kind of, and by getting too much input from people who weren't my ideal clients kept me small. So when I stopped asking people and I started experimenting, I wonder what would happen if, and then looking for that feedback instead, that's when everything changed for me.
Yeah. There's some good writer-downers in all of that. We're going to throw two questions. If you have a question, throw your hand up. We've got Ariel over here.
Okay, going back to the content area, definitely find myself overthinking, wanting the perfection, all of that. But there is sort of this balance. I guess this is a two-part question. One, it feels like sometimes if you start to create curated content, and then you're like, then you can't really bounce back between the scrappy, messy one, is what I get in my head about. It's like, oh, well, be consistent with the quality and the branding of how you're going to present your content. But then sometimes the other part of me is like, I want to do this scrappy thing, but I'm not sure if that creates as much credibility. So like as a small account, when someone sees this really organic sort of messy iPhone content, and then they come to your page and you're not already a big account, sometimes it can feel like that is the reason why people are like, okay, never mind. So I don't know, I guess my question is, have you noticed with your clients that don't have big accounts that not having consistency becomes a problem?
What just came to mind quickly is that I sort of do both. So my feed is quite, being a photographer, I want to make sure that my work, when people stumble across my account, it's like I know what I'm doing, it is polished photography that I'm doing. I'm romanticizing motherhood and it's all very beautiful. I think maybe for you, this might help you, is figuring out what lives where. So for me, my feed is where this is my work, I'm really great at that. And then my stories and sometimes my reels are where my scrappier stuff lives. So each thing sort of has a home. Then I just find that people that come to my stories are more people that are already in my world, and that's where my deeper connections are. So my feed is pretty, if you're following me and you're part of my world, then you get to also dive deeper with me, and that's where I share a lot more. Now, this is obviously a little bit dependent. What's your industry?
I'm a health coach.
coach, yeah. So that might help. I don't know. That's just the way that I find works really well for me. And especially if you're new to creating scrappier or more vulnerable content, it's kind of a safe space to play because they're already following you and they're only going to watch your stories if they're invested. But I found when I first started really showing up on socials, I had probably about 2,000 followers, and I just thought, that is so many people. Imagine if I could just like talk more deeply to them, and by doing that, not thinking about growing, but thinking about strengthening the relationships with the people who are already there, then I grew. And that's all I focused on. And that's where everything lived. Stories, scrappy, come, around on my life with me. And then on my feed is where my polished content lived.
Anyone have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's scary. It's more scary when you have 300,000 followers and you've got a beautiful feed, and then you could be scrappy. So, but I don't think being small is the disadvantage. It's probably an advantage. Most of the big brands, the brands that you are probably all wearing right now, have gone on that journey. And some of the ways they tackle it is they might do like siloing of content, either into different feeds or they do a behind the scenes account. But where they all end up is social media social. And how social media looks right now isn't pretty. And they keep the website and all the aesthetics, and then they basically let social be social. And social doesn't look like good, to be honest, right now.
I think though sometimes that there's a difference between, because like now we're doing this like beautiful curated storytelling, right? And so there's a difference between like being vulnerable and authentic versus scrappy, and that's I think where I sometimes get in my head. Do you understand the nuance of what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, like most of the big creators I talk to, they've ditched the cameras and they've picked up the iPhones.
Okay, that's helpful.
Just there's the second someone sees like beautiful, you probably know more about photography than me, but like depth and lenses and stuff like this, they just tune out. So I personally think that scrappy is native. Native is good. So yeah, let social be social.
Great question. So good. We had a question down here.
You've all either gone from like service-based business or e-com businesses and then created a coaching program out of that. What was the transformation for you to then make you realize like, oh, I can actually teach other people to do what I've done?
I think the number one priority of any business owner is to be able to make it rain in your business. It's like the only thing that matters. That's why I had Make It Rain on LinkedIn on there.
IO.
Yeah, and I used to be in sales and like generation agency, book calls for people. And then I booked 50 calls for and they closed no deals. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like they were qualified. And I think every business owner, like you have to get to the point where you're like, fuck it, I need to sell. You know what I mean? And then just embrace that. And then I think level 2 is like when you adopt copywriting and then you can influence people. But for me, it happened when I was doing this for like 9 months and I was getting these results for people. And then what happens is like, if your lead gen agency dies, you're screwed. I think I prefer to teach the founder to be able to do it. And now with AI, I don't think you want to use AI to create content. I think AI is the best thing it's used for is learning, like using AI to actually learn and like putting in all your information about you and like actually upskilling yourself. Because I think in the future, there's going to be $1 billion one-person businesses because someone is just going to be such an amazing engineer ever. They can do everything. And so I think there's going to be like a change where business went through, like we all used to be like solo people, hunter and gatherers. Then the industrial age came, but then it's literally just going to go back down to like solo people again who just have abilities and we've got unique skills and everyone's got their own superpowers. But I think embracing that is like super key because then there's nothing more fulfilling like knowing that if my whole entire team dies and my business goes to $0, I can make it work again.
Don't end the sentence there.
Yeah. It's like, no, sorry, not dies, is gone. My business dies, not team dies. Bad sentence. But yeah, there's nothing else that's more fulfilling than being like, that's fine. Like I think about my grandma who was a refugee for like 7 years after World War II. And like my dad asked her all the time, what happened if you had nothing? She's like, I don't care, I'll just start again. And so I think there's nothing more like empowering than having that self-authorship over your life. And so, yeah, that was the transition.
I think one thing I would say for me when I moved from agency to coaching, I had my offer was I did VIP days with people. I'd build out their entire marketing strategy in a day. And then I'd check in with them like a month later. I'd hand them the thing and be like, this is the blueprint. This is exactly what you need to do. And I'd talk to them a month later and be like, how are you doing? And they're like, I've done none of it. Like, you paid me so much money for me to build this thing for you and you haven't implemented it. And so that told me there was a gap. And so then I was like, okay, cool. I don't want to support if you think about the mixing desk, for me, I was like, I don't really want to do this one-on-one. And I think there's an opportunity to do this in a group because it's happening with multiple clients. So that's when I shifted to group, and that was a huge leap for me. But the mistake people make is they go, I want to launch a group program or a course or a digital product or something, but they don't actually have the people asking them, hey, can you help me with this thing? Or this is a need in the market. So that's like first step if you want to move into doing courses or coaching programs. Like it's incredible. Every person here is doing that. But it has to be solving a really felt need for people. Otherwise, every man and his dog can launch a course and nobody buys it. So that would be the big thing I'd say. We've got time for one more. Let's go over this way. Who has a question over here?
I want to go back to content, because obviously you guys have started from scratch at one point. And I feel like all of us here want to be on and doing those things, but we don't have the confidence yet. What was the biggest thing and I remember Laura said once in our first video, it's a muscle. You got to keep doing it and you get better at it. When you started out, what was like the first thing you did that built that confidence where it just became natural state for you?
There's no point where it happens. It just happens over time. That's the problem. So it's like you wake up one day and you're like, oh my God, I'm doing this right now. But it's like every single time you're like posting something out there, that's like you building self-trust in yourself that you can then do it again, which is like, James Clear talks about it in Atomic Habits. It's like habit reinforcement over and over and over. And then you build this level of self-trust. And then eventually, I think the tipping point though needs to happen where you kind of like find your voice and you start falling in love with the content process and you see it more as art and giving back instead of a chore. And so I've spent a lot of time with business coaches, and every business coach I've ever met that makes less than $1 million a year, whenever I chat to them, they're like, lead generation, marketing. But anyone who I speak who makes 7 and 8 figures, they lean in at that point because they're like, oh, that's sick. I want to like attack it. But I don't think it's not a click thing that happens. It's like a slow build of self-trust that gets built over time. And then eventually you find yourself like, oh, I actually can't wait to share this. And then that's when I think momentum happens and then it tips over. But I don't think there's any like point that it happens. And that's kind of a big fallacy, like where we think that like all of a sudden, but it's just kind of not. Like each time is kind of hard. Like each time it just gets a little bit less hard.
Yeah.
I still don't like doing it. So I think when I started, I just like had true belief that like I really just wanted to change my conditions and my family's conditions so much that I just did the cringe thing and just ate the pain of having to do it because I knew that that's what I needed to do to progress, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I've still left I've got 600 posts now. I've still left them all up. Like if you go watch my first posts, you can see the terror in my eyes. And, it was I started a brand new Instagram to nobody and it was really hard,
Yeah.
And it was just, for me, it was just like, I could have the pain of like feeling like an idiot on social, or I could have the pain of being poor and my kids not having the life I want them to have.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, I'm just going to do what I think I need to do.
That as well. But also, like, I grew up, my dad was in partnerships and had businesses all through my childhood. And I saw him be the face of his business back then, but it was in such a different way. And for him, it was coffees and dinners and one-to-one, and if he had this opportunity to talk one-to-many the way we do, I reckon he'd be so famous on Instagram. Like he'd be so amazing because he would just go, is that an opportunity? I'm going to do it. Like he was such a go-getter. And I just think it's an opportunity that we have. And if you could look down the path of your business in 2 years' time and see a really, really different, like why wouldn't you do that? And I think if you could regret that. And when I first started, stories was new, and some people might go, well, yeah, you started in stories when it was new, but it's not about that anymore. It's just the quality and the connection that you make. There's lots of people on there, yeah, of course, but your voice is different. And really, I found that actually the easiest content for me to make was the stuff that got me the most sales. So for me, going and meeting one client at a time, one sunset, the little flick for me was turning up and they're like, oh, how are your kids and how was this and how's your dog? And I'm like, oh my God, you already love me and I haven't even met you. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
The fact that I can make people fall in love with me all at the same time. It's like a magic, but I've actually never spoken to you one-to-one, whereas my dad had to go and sit down and hustle and have coffee and buy lunches and do all this stuff. And I'm like, that is so low effort by comparison. So if I do not take that opportunity, that is so dumb. And like, we need to systemize our businesses as much as we can so that when we have things that happen in life and whatever, and that whatever we put out has the most impact. So it's just a mindset shift. And yes, every single time I posted, I was like, will my ex-boyfriend from year 8 look at this and go, wow, I dodged a bullet there. Like, I do think that sometimes. Wow, there she is again. How strange. But it's over time, you just don't care, because I'm just like, I am making really good money from just saying, hey guys. It feels like it kind of gets to the point sometimes where it feels a little bit too easy, but it's just part of your day. It's just part of your day. It's just like writing the emails, and I hope that helps.
So good.